Welcome to Rescinio Law. Here's your host, Albert Rescinio.
Welcome back, everybody. Albert Rescinio, attorney at law. Here to talk to you about various issues. We have a lot of stuff to cover, and we're going to hopefully be putting out a lot of content. I'm going to say up front, we encourage everybody to like our videos and to please give us your comments or questions and or share some of your experiences with us. We'll try and remember to put that before or after all of our videos, but putting that out to you right up front. Today I want to talk to you about a case I had a few years ago, which was an international case. I mean, it was all over the news. It was being reported, I am aware, in other countries. There was a gentleman who lived in the town of West Long Branch, which is right near me in New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore, which is where we're located. And he had a Trump flag flying on a flagpole on his property. He was therefore a Trump supporter. The township decided to crack down on him. Presumably the township and or the Republicans in the township, I don't know if it was just the Democrats too, but the township decided that they wanted him to take the flag down, and they told him to take the flag down. When he didn't, they started issuing him a summons for not taking the flag down, equating the flag to a sign, like a political sign that you might see put into the property, on somebody's property, roadside, which after an election, they're supposed to be routinely taken down. Problem was, this was not a political sign. This was a flag on a flagpole. So he went into the municipal court, and it was defended vigorously, and it was ultimately acknowledged that it was not a political sign which needed to be removed, and it was a flag which could continue to fly over his property, supporting his then chosen candidate of Donald Trump. And understand, this was all before Donald Trump was even the major candidate. This was very early on in the Trump campaign to be elected president. So he came to me after the fact, and knowing that I did some constitutional work, and I will take select cases, and came to me about suing to be compensated for his damages that he suffered by the township in their attempt to squash his First Amendment rights of freedom of speech. I took the case. I filed it in the Federal District Court for the District of New Jersey, and ultimately we were successful on that case. We argued that the township's actions were clearly intended to deny my client his right for freedom of speech, to fly his flag, and to let everybody know that very early on, he was a Trump supporter. Ultimately, they eventually acknowledged the correctness of our position and settled with us. And there was a monetary settlement. I'm not going to disclose that. That's between my client and the defense. But there was a monetary settlement. But what was important, and I stress this, is that we defended his right for freedom of speech, and that he was willing to go to municipal court to defend it on a criminal, quasi-criminal level, and then to go into the civil court, the federal civil court, to defend it and to assert his rights. And kudos to my client, because, that was a great thing to do. Great guy for that. Also, so you know, and it's funny because I went by the property the other day, he still has a Trump flag up. He's still a Trump supporter. Now the flag says Trump 2024. But the important thing to remember, though, is that when you have a right for freedom of speech, you have to look to defend that right. If you don't defend your rights, then you're going to quickly learn that you're not going to have those rights. Many people would have just simply taken the flag down, or they would have simply paid the summons in the municipal court, or they wouldn't have bothered to pony up and try and enforce their rights in the federal district court. You cannot allow yourself to do that. You've got to protect your rights, your First Amendment rights for freedom of speech. Freedom of speech comes in many different forms, but one of the most protected forms, and this is why we felt so strongly about this case, one of the most protected forms of freedom of speech is the right for freedom of political speech. It's one of the reasons our founding forefathers back in 1780 and in 1776 when they started the American Revolution, and subsequently in our Constitution and in the amendments to the Constitution around 1790, fought that war, and why it's the First Amendment. It's the First Amendment because it's one of the most important amendments. It was the first thing on their mind. The right for people to be able to speak their mind and say what they want without the fear of retaliation or any repercussion. In particular, in the realm of politics, you should be allowed to peacefully assemble, and you have the right to peacefully state what your position is. You have the right, if you want, to fly a flag, a Trump flag, or, if you're a Biden supporter, a Biden flag, whatever the case may be. But you should have those rights, and those rights should never be infringed or impinged based upon your desires to express yourself. And I know that today, as things are in our society, quite often people are derided and they're criticized for expressing a viewpoint. And I would say to everybody out there, accept the fact that everybody has the right to freedom of speech. Everybody has to have the right to an opinion. We don't have to like it. My cousin used to have a saying about opinions and what body part they're related to and how they all stink. But everybody has the right to them. So you have the right to your opinion. Express it. Tell us about it. Tell us if you've had any issues with the government impinging upon your rights for freedom of speech, and support other people's rights for their freedom of speech, because it applies to everybody or it will end up applying to nobody. And that is something that we have to be very careful of. We have other cases that we're involved in that deal with issues relating to the First Amendment rights for freedom of speech. I have a case that I've just filed before the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in our land. We just filed our petition for certiorari. And that case stems out of an individual's First Amendment rights, him saying what he wants to say, and the government taking action against him. We have another case that's in the federal district court, and I'll do separate videos on these, where a young man was suspended indefinitely from high school for a couple of posts that he made, none of which threatened anybody, none of which advocated any violence, none of which implicated his school or had anything to do with the school, but yet the school took an egregious action against this young man for absolutely no legitimate reason and suspended him. And so we have that case pending. These are individuals who realized that their First Amendment rights had been violated and wanted to do something about it. And we're fighting to have that acknowledged, that their First Amendment rights, which is gigantic, it's huge, were violated. And in the process, we're going to seek to get them ultimately, hopefully, monetary compensation for that violation. But the primary focus of the case is always to protect your rights, to protect their rights. In doing so, I protect my right, okay? Because one day, if we don't protect it, you're going to wake up and you're going to find out that you don't have the right for freedom of speech. And if you don't think that's possible, you're kidding yourself. You're fooling yourself. Clearly, we're going to have issues somewhere in the future if we don't defend all of these rights. So I look to you and I say, I hope this video was entertaining. I hope it was informative. I hope it made you think about your First Amendment rights. If you're ever not sure, take a moment. Read the Constitution. Read the amendments. Everybody should know what those rights are. Your First Amendment right for freedom of speech. Your Second Amendment right to possess firearms, right? Your Fourth Amendment right against illegal searches and seizures, right? Your right to remain silent and your right to be represented by counsel, confront the witnesses against you, etc. These are all very important rights. Our forefathers over 200 years ago thought they were important. They put them in writing. We've had them now for over 200 years. But like any right, like anything, it needs to be actively defended. And that means you. So please share your thoughts with me. Share your comments. If you have any examples or any things that you want to relay to us, please feel free. If we have the ability to address them, we will. I can't necessarily always comment on things that are happening out of my state, which is New Jersey. But many of the things I say are generic in nature and will apply, especially when we're talking about your federal rights. Because whatever your federal rights are, they are your rights wherever you may be, whatever state or territory you may be in. We look forward to seeing you. Please like our video. Please tune back in, and we'll catch you on another video. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you for watching Rescinio Law. Please do not forget to like and subscribe.